to episode 3 of the Lions and Lambs podcast. We are back at Victory Military Surplus at 7913 Desert Street in Monroe, Louisiana. This is in Suite D, just in case you don't see the big logo on the door. And it's going to be a topical podcast, so no guests today, but we've got a few topics to talk about. We're going to start off with a little faith topic, and then we're going to talk about this book that Brennan's been reading, and then our last topic will be discussing how kids who spend time in nature turn out to be healthier in the long run, or in the present and in the long run.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
To add there to the introduction?
I don't know. I'm ready. I'm excited. It's episode 3. Did you say that already?
Yep.
Okay, I kind of spaced out at the front there. It's been some long nights, but and I'm just now getting started on this.
Yeah, y'all had Sutton when we shot with the last interview.
We did, but that was more focused on Tim because that was his interview.
Right.
Yeah, so
yeah, you just kind of sat there and didn't do much.
No, I was trying to listen and learn. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. All right, so we'll jump in to our faith section for today, which is going to be Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. So I'll just kind of read that, and then we can offer some thoughts. I probably should have marked it, so I could have just flipped right to it, but I didn't. But I'll get
now you look not spiritual because it's taking you forever to get to
I'm
Proverbs.
almost there, right there. There it is. One more page. All right. And we actually did this in our Bible study, our men's Bible study this morning, so should be fresh on our minds. But Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7, it's the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Some good stuff right there.
It is good. I tell people that those verses, particularly verse 7, had a profound impact on my life shortly after I was converted. One of the first things that I did, I started reading the whole Bible. But I also was reading Proverbs, if you do a chapter a day in a 31-day month, and that's pretty easy to get through. And I started there not long after I placed my faith and trust in Christ. And verse 7 really stood out to me, and kind of the way I like to present it to people is when you look at it, and it may be presented differently in different translations of the scripture, but verse 7 for me is kind of separate from all of the other verses. And so there's kind of a line break between verse 6 and 7, and then another line break after verse 7. And so verse 6 ends with, to understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. And it's almost like, here's your first riddle with verse 7, which is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And we kind of talked about this morning how that seems, I don't know if counterintuitive is the right word to use, but to say that knowledge begins with something that isn't necessarily directly related to learning. Yeah. Right? Like you would think that the beginning of knowledge is like go read a book. Right. Go sit under a teacher. Right? But the proverb actually says that the beginning of knowledge is the fear of God. Right. It's the fear of the Lord. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, we throughout the progression of our Bible study, we continue to talk about that, and we were brought up how, your point of it kind of being counterintuitive to our way of thinking as humans. And I think that just hits the nail on the head because we think that, or I'll say this, a lot of people view their knowledge and their intelligence as their crowning jewel, the pride of their life. That is all that they devote their life to, is being as knowledgeable and as intelligent as they believe they can be to the things that they think they know about. And while there's definitely value in continuing to learn your whole life, and and trying to be as intelligent of a person as possible, you start to see that there is a difference between the knowledge that the human mind can kind of create and understand versus this extraterrestrial kind of knowledge that I think I just use that word as an example.
Okay.
But it's supernatural in the sense that yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's extraterrestrial. Same thing.
True. Okay, true.
You go together. That this knowledge that Proverbs is talking about doesn't originate from man.
Right.
It doesn't originate from our imagination. It doesn't originate from the things that we can find or deduce. Right? This knowledge comes directly from God, and the only way to gain this knowledge is to humble yourself first, which I think is the big, for me, that's what I get a lot out of those few verses in Proverbs is, or specifically verse 7, is it's the humbling of myself before my Creator, in which allows that relationship to be in proper positioning, right? Me below God, and God me recognizing and having respect and awe and reverence for my God, that elevates him to the position he needs to be in my relationship to him, which then allows him to treat me in the position that I'm supposed to be in our relationship, which is his servant, but also his child, right? That he cares for and wants to give this wisdom and knowledge to.
Yeah. Right. And so, I guess just to add to that, I think there's an understanding of life that is outside of a human being, right? And if God is creator, which I'm going to come back to that, if God is creator, then he understands better than any of us ever could how we're supposed to work and how life is supposed to work. And so if we want that understanding, then like you just said, we have to humble ourselves before him and submit ourselves to what he has to offer to us. I kind of used the contrast of creation and evolution as two different fields of study, if you will, or beliefs, ideas. Evolution. I'm shocked oftentimes when I look out into the world how readily accepted evolution is. When there's zero proof for it, it's all still just a theory. There's no proof for it, but it's so, it's put in the textbooks as if it's 100% true and proven, and it's not. And listen, if you're out there and you're listening, and you believe in evolution, I'm more than willing to sit down and have a discussion with you about it, or even a debate, if you will. And I'd be glad to listen to what you have to say, with the, exception that you're going to listen to me also. But, to believe in creation, I think in today's day and age where you've been presented, if you watch any kid's cartoon that has anything to do with dinosaurs, it always opens up with millions or billions of years ago. And I'm like, man, where do these millions and billions of years come from? And evolutionary science, they have to continue expanding that time frame to allow for evolution to take place, right? So they have to keep pushing it beyond further and further back.
Well, it's like the further we go along and the more that we don't observe scientifically, we don't observe evolution, it's like, okay, well, then it must have taken place over an even longer period of time.
Exactly, right.
And one thing that I like to point out is people who, and look, I'm not here to just judge you outright. I think we can all have our misguided beliefs, but people who believe in evolution often say, I believe in evolution, not I believe in the theory of evolution.
Right.
And that's where I think you might need to reevaluate what you're putting your faith and trust in, because that's not saying that you believe in evolution instead of saying you believe in the theory of evolution is not a correct understanding of what you actually think you believe in.
Right. Yeah, you're really just believing in a lie.
Right.
Basically. And I think it's the biggest, greatest lie of the 21st century. Or I guess it would go back to the 20th century.
Not that men and women can be opposites of what they are.
We'll get into that next time. So anyhow, yeah, the beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord. if you really want to have an understanding of life, humble and submit yourself to the Lord. And I think you'll be amazed at how your understanding and will expand about life and relationships and just everything, really.
Yeah.
We want to promote a couple of things. We already mentioned that we're at Victory Military Surplus today. Tim Sherman is the owner of Victory Military Surplus, and he is in partnership with the Chenault Aviation and Military Museum. 10% of his proceeds go to the Chenault Military Aviation and Museum. Also, they have an air show coming up. It's called the Red, White, and Blue Air Show. It is exclusive to the museum in Monroe, Louisiana. It's going to be May 3rd.
What was that? Drink some more. Drink some more.
May 3rd through the 5th. I got ahead of myself there. Again, that's going to be at the Monroe Regional Airport. I'm planning on being there if at all possible.
It's an incredible show. I don't think I was able to make it last year, but the 2 years before that, we've had it for 3 years now, I was able to be there. And it's not only is it an incredible show, but it's, I think we often struggle in this area to have big community events like that are good, clean, and safe and fun. And that has been probably the biggest event in our community lately that I've seen that taking place, and that's been really fulfilling for me. And to see people that I know there having fun with their kids, it's just a great environment. And if you like anything related to planes or anything like that, it's a good time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off script and break the rules of podcasting here for a second. Tim, who are some planes that y'all are bringing in?
F-16 Viper demo. I know that one, right?
Oh, that's worth it in and of itself. Okay, nice. Okay,
Coast Guard helicopter.
On the Army helicopters are going to be attack helicopters, like Apache.
That's worth it.
Nice. Okay.
Nice.
Oh, cool. Chinooks are cool.
They are pretty cool.
Big and move a lot of air.
There's the Aeroshell team. They're coming.
Yeah, it's now called
Titans. Gotcha.
Everything's repainted.
Gotcha.
Everything's got Titan on it. They're going to do the evening shows Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And then Sunday will be the day show.
Gotcha.
So they won't have those performances. So if you have to make one day, or one evening,
Yeah.
I'd make it Friday or Saturday.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's also a performer that performs after the end.
Gotcha.
At dark. After dark.
Gotcha.
Lit up like
Yeah.
They probably can't hear what Tim said, so.
Yeah. Tim said, if you can only make one evening, Friday or Saturday, you said, that'll be the time for that. The day show is on Sunday. So that's some information for you there. But that Titan, that former Aeroshell team, man, they're incredible.
What are they flying?
They're flying old F4Us? T6, sorry. So it's an older military aircraft, training aircraft that they're flying. But, I mean, it's just as precise as the Blue Angels.
Okay, so that's the two-seater you were telling me about that they do the rides in. So for maybe around $400, you can get a ride somewhere around there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then also there's going to be a helicopter ride. Yeah.
But
What kind of helicopter will that be?
the Bell 47.
Bell 47, the MASH helicopter. Is that an evac? Evac helicopter for those of us who went in the military after the MASH.
that'll be a good time. So I'd encourage, if you can make it to that event, man, it's just a good time, especially if you have kids or sons that make their world,
Yeah, I know. One of the things we complain about in Monroe is we don't ever have anything to do. Well, here's something to do.
Here's something to do.
Red, White, and Blue Air Show.
Do it.
Monroe, Louisiana, May 3rd through
Just
the 5th.
do it.
Chenault Military and Aviation Museum. Also, the Southern Heritage Aviation Museum from Tallulah is also involved in this air show, correct? Yeah, cool.
Gotcha.
Good deal.
Gotcha. What's next?
All right, next is the book that you're reading,
Oh, we're going to that already?
the Area Intelligence Handbook.
Dang.
You
I'm
prepared?
No, not really. I'm just going to wing it.
You want me to grab it for you? Can you get it?
I got it. Okay, so This is getting sort of into our what would you call preparedness side of things?
Yep.
Tactical, if you will. Just a little bit more. Well, all right.
So we're transitioning from spiritual preparedness to
physical.
physical preparedness.
Do you want to do pocket dump before?
Sure.
You want to do pocket dump?
Okay.
Let's do pocket dump.
All right. Let's do it.
What you got on you?
All right.
Oh, by the way, if you don't know what that is, pocket dump is it's a term for showing your EDC, so your everyday carry, just the things that you carry on you. You could extend that to a backpack or whatever, but generally it's just pocket dumping. Literally, so just taking everything out of your pockets, and it's pretty well known to do this with gun guys and tactical world.
Yeah.
Just to compare and contrast.
You want to go like
Share notes. What are we gonna do?
1 for 1? I do 1, you do 1.
Yeah, but I bet I got you beat on a couple
Oh,
things.
I'm sure you do.
Right now, at least.
It's all right. I can beat you at other things.
Like what?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. What? Hey.
It's okay. All right, I'll
Company
go
card.
first. So just start with the everyday things that most people probably have. I have my keys, and everybody carries keys. A couple of things that I carry with my keys that are probably maybe a little bit different than everybody else's. I have a strand of paracord because you just never know.
You got me beat.
And for me, I use paracord. I mean, I'm not gonna say all the time, but
Well, maybe not.
at least I would say 2 or 3 times a year, I find myself in need of paracord, and it's nice to just have it somewhere handy and available. Also have a carabiner. It's not rated for any real weight or anything.
Why not?
It says not for climbing.
What if you
because
need
it's
to climb?
cheap, but it comes in handy. I can hang my keys somewhere. That way I don't forget them if they're hanging in front of my face. And then 2, this carabiner can just come in handy for attaching other things to other things.
Like what?
Anything.
We're going to try to emulate as good as possible how difficult we are with each other because it's hilarious. You have me beat sort of, but I kind of have something that makes up for it. So I carry 2 sets of keys. One has, oh yeah, I'm better than you. One has this little, I don't even know where this came with. I think it came with a carabiner at one point. But it does have a little mini compass on it. Now, does this mini compass work? Absolutely not. But
Not at all.
I mean, not really. No, you can spin it around, and north will be 360 degrees in every direction.
Oh. Okay. And that, let me just say that the size of this is somewhere between a thumb and a wrist.
It's
You can
not
put that on
wearable.
Sutton.
So this goes in my pocket,
Okay.
and I keep my car keys completely separate on a carabiner that I can clip onto my pants. This is just because sometimes you forget things after you already get in your car, and I don't want to have to turn my truck off to have to go back into my house. So that's why I decided to carry 2 separate sets and keep them separate.
Okay.
What's next?
So those are keys. I might have a wallet.
Do you?
And another little promo here for Victory Military Surplus.
You
I
have money in
purchased
it?
this wallet from here, I think for $18. It's metal, so it's RFID proof. You can see I got a stack of cards in here. And so it's just super ergonomical,
Is it?
if that's the word I'm looking for. I can get things in and out of it pretty easily. My debit card kind of stays on top, unfortunately. But it's super easy to get things in and out, and I like it, and it protects my identity.
You got me beat there again.
And got a money clip.
So
I'll have 20 pesos also for my next trip to Mexico.
I gave that to
You
you,
did?
right?
Yep.
That was for your birthday. I gave
It
you
was.
20 pesos
Thanks.
because I didn't have anything else. I also have a wallet because it'd be weird if I didn't. It's just a Alpine Swiss. I guess it's related to Swiss Army brand or whatever. I think my wife gave me this one, so
We better hold on to it.
I better hold on to it. But it's nice and actually pretty thin, so I keep it in my back pocket, and I probably have hip displacement in a few years, but who cares?
And more likely to get snagged.
Massive.
I carry my wallet in my front
Look,
pocket.
my butt is super sensitive, so if somebody's touching around it,
Okay.
I'll probably know.
All right. Now what's next?
I don't know.
I'm gonna go
You're
with
leading this thing.
I'm gonna go with my knife.
Please don't.
And I just carry a pocket knife. And I'll tell you why. I
Teach
use
me
it
your
way
ways.
more than I would a tactical get in a fight kind of knife. And I could still get in a fight with this. Now, would it be the best thing to get in a fight with? No, but I could if I had to. But I use this thing almost every day. And so this is the CRKT. I don't know what model, but I like it.
I have a solution for your problems of only carrying one knife.
Okay.
Carry two.
Yeah, I knew you'd have me beat there.
I'm trying to hold it up so you can see. This is an old SOG Aegis. I don't know. Aegis. It was yours, and I stole
I
it.
gave it to you.
Oh, you did?
I think so.
I think I just stole it because
Maybe
you weren't
so.
using it
Nope.
anymore. That's what I do. A lot of his crap, he throws it aside, buy something new, and I take it and repurpose it. But I love this knife. It sits really deep in my pocket, so it's not like in the way of my hands or whatever trying to get my phone out. And
I did appreciate that about that knife.
it is it's a really nice feature, and it kind of teardrops, so it gets bigger in your pocket, but it stays out of the way when you're putting your phone in and out. And it's got a
you
nice.
Get your hand in and out of your pocket while you're with your knife there.
You break dancing or something?
Don't make me do something stupid.
I just like it. It's got a relatively large blade for folding knife, and it's I think just about the perfect size for me. And then for my defensive knife, I'm carrying the Benchmade Sock P. This is kind of a different. It's kind of the only knife of its kind, really, that's shaped and designed like this. I got it for Christmas one year, just because I kind of wanted to get into blades a little bit, and carrying a fixed blade knife on me, and so that's the one that I chose because it is somewhat affordable, unlike a lot of good quality fixed blade defense knives. Some of those prices are kind of ridiculous, but this one also fits deep into my front left pocket, so I carry this one front right with my phone, that one front left with my keys, and it's got a nice ring on the front that you can reach down and get it pretty quick access to it. And so
If you were going to employ this thing, would you use your pinky?
No, I'm using
your pointer finger.
pointer finger. I'm gonna.
Okay, here you demonstrate.
If I pull it out, it's coming out like this.
Okay, I see.
And I'm just
Gotcha.
going to work on trying to stab your neck or something.
Okay. I also have one of these, but my
He
clip
does.
is different, and it does not like to stay.
Well, you should just
When
replace.
I go to pull, it
the
pulls
clip.
the whole sheath out of my pocket. So I need to get a new clip for
Fix it.
And then maybe I would carry
Stop
two knives
complaining.
and be as good as you.
Yeah. Come on. But yeah, I love this thing. It's around $100 if you want to get into it, and it comes with a training knife as well if you want to get that, which is a good thing to note. If you're going to carry any defensive tool for a defensive reason, you should probably learn how to use it defensively. So don't just carry something because it's cool or because you think it's cool. Make it cool by knowing how to use it. you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah. And so
What's next?
next is pistol.
The pistola.
The pistol. I carry typically most days I'll carry my pig.
Dude, you need help right now, dude.
I got way ahead of myself. So I'm gonna start calling it. That's my nickname for my pistol. So,
I carry my pig, my little piglet.
that's embarrassing.
Whoa.
Sig P320. I put the P before in the wrong place.
So stupid. Why are you holding it under the table? Nobody here.
Okay, it's coming. Sig P320. Just for the sake of you internet people that like to
Don't
weird
hate,
about
appreciate.
it is empty. I can see an empty chamber. I can stick my finger in it. I know it's empty. I can also look down the mag well, and I know that it's empty. And so it is
Wow.
unloaded. First thing you always know about every gun is whether or not it's loaded. So Sig P320. I believe this is the X Carry model. I put a Wilson Combat
Does it have X on it?
pistol grip.
Doesn't. I think it was just
Maybe
a carry.
it's just a carry.
Yeah.
P320 carry
Yeah.
model. Sorry. Also have gas pedal on it. So
C.
replaced the takedown lever
Take down
with the
lever.
gas
Yeah.
pedal. And then I'm running a Leupold Delta Point Pro red dot,
Solid.
and a TLR 7 sub there
Also
for
solid.
the light on the front end.
Yep.
My holster is
I was just about to
Glock
ask.
extra mag,
Yep.
extra magazine. And then, by the way, the P320 carry is a 17-round mag, so you get one in the chamber. That's 18 rounds. And then you throw another 17-round magazine. That's
It's a lot of lead.
35 rounds.
Can you do math that good?
I think it's 35.
It is. Well, all right, 17, 17, 35 plus one in the chamber.
36.
36.
What's 18 plus 18?
Dude, I don't know. That's too high for me.
We're gonna edit this part out.
It's comedic relief.
Holster, T-Rex arms, sidecar holster there.
Yeah.
Brennan's wearing T-Rex hat this morning.
Gotta
And if I'm not
represent.
mistaken, you're probably
I am.
carrying the
So, what I'm carrying in this department is a little bit simpler right now at the moment, but same concept. So, I too am carrying La Pistola. So, what I've got is a simple stock Glock 19 that I've had for about, 4 or 5, almost 6 years now, I think, maybe 7. That I just love. If you want to start shooting and you want to be able to take any platform of gun and shoot it well, then learn how to shoot a Glock, because it is kind of the industry standard, I guess, in what you could say. And if you can shoot a Glock good, you can shoot any gun.
If you
good.
can shoot a Glock good, you can shoot a SIG better.
That is very true, because I do shoot my P320 better, but that's a full-size gun. I mean, obviously it has its advantages that we don't have to get into that talk right now. But what I'm carrying, Gen 5 Glock
Hey,
19.
is that loaded or unloaded?
It's unloaded.
It
We
is.
checked it beforehand, but
Yeah.
got to do it for the
internet.
for the haters.
Yep.
This is the MOS model, so it is optics ready, and I was carrying a red dot on this because I do prefer that for many reasons. However, this little thing took a tumble onto some concrete, and it fell directly on the dot, and the glass broke. That was a SIG dot, so I've heard SIG has made their optics a little bit better since then, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't have broken, because it was a pretty hard fall right on the corner of the dot, so I kind of would expect any glass to break in that scenario, but I just work for a church. So
It wasn't the highest dollar or the highest.
it also
red
wasn't
dot
the
either.
highest end either. Still saving up to replace that. I'm also carrying the TLR 7A pistol light, weapon light. Why are weapon lights important?
So you can get positive identification of your intended target.
Can't shoot something you can't see.
Can't shoot something you
You
can't
also
see.
don't wanna shoot
You also don't want
somebody-
to shoot the wrong thing.
Yeah, that might be worse.
That would probably.
So I'm also carrying in a T-Rex Arms sidecar holster. I also just haven't had the chance to buy the magazine attachment yet.
Carrying the sidecar without the sidecar.
Yeah, how lame. I'm sorry, I've disappointed you. But I do carry an extra 21 round magazine in my bag, which is pretty much right next to me wherever I go. So I feel confident that I could get to that pretty quickly if I needed it as well. But this holds 15 rounds in a flush magazine, so pretty close to that. Kind of 17 is becoming the industry standard with EDC guns and carrying capacity flush, which I like and appreciate. But
So I will also, just as one last piece here of everyday carry, this is, what's the next gear? Next belt?
next belt.
Next belt. And I
Sorry, that was
purchased
a little
mine
loud.
from the Warrior Poet Society. So shout out to those guys. It's got the Warrior Poet Society logo on there, and I love this belt. This is my favorite belt that I've ever had, just period. Apart from the purpose of it, which is to be an EDC belt that is pretty stiff, so that you can, comfortably but safely carry your pistol and anything else you might attach to it. And I just love the ease of use.
Nice.
If you carry a firearm, in concealment, you know that one of the problems is if you can't adjust your belt, then when you go to sit down and stand up and sit down and stand up, it's going to be uncomfortable in one position or the other. But with this thing, it's got a little button at the bottom, and it just allows it to slide in and out, and makes it super easy. So when I sit down, I can, if I stand up, I have it a little bit tighter, and then when I sit down, I can just click that button, and it'll open up a little bit and makes it far more comfortable.
Oh, it's so
to sit
nice.
down.
It's
Nice.
one of the best features about
Highly
any
recommend that if you
clothing
can still
item.
carry, you get one of these.
Because if you like to eat a lot like me and you get fat every time you sit down to eat, especially it's like a big old burger or something, man, I gotta let that thing unratchet a little bit, you know.
It's only 9 o'clock, and you just made me hungry.
Dang it.
All right.
But even if I'm just going to work or whatever, and I know I'm going to be sitting down for a while, just loosen a little. It's so much more comfortable. Then you stand back up and you just bloop, click it back in,
It's nice.
and I'm fangirling over this belt right now. But I didn't take mine off, but I'm wearing the exact same belt because
Yeah.
it is. I've been
Same
indoctrinated.
color and everything.
We're twins.
Um,
Twinsies. Sorry, that was weird.
We'll stay on top of the EDC thing because it kind of evolves. It's always evolving. I don't like the word evolving. It's always adapting.
You're forgetting something
Okay, go ahead.
that I've got you beat on. Medical.
Well, so
Well, what?
normally I have my bag.
Yeah.
I ashamedly do not have it with me right now. I left it locked in my office.
What a loser.
Normally I have medical somewhere not too far.
Yeah.
Actually, in my truck,
Yeah.
I have my
What you got? Let me know. You got a
I
tourniquet?
have my IFAC that's attached to my battle
Individual first aid
belt.
kit.
So I do have it not too far away,
Yeah. Okay.
but not on my person. So go ahead.
So I am a little bit more.
Prepared.
Yeah, I'll just say it. I'm a little bit more prepared in that manner, I guess. I've been carrying a tourniquet on me for the past couple of years now. You know, being a nerd for all the gun tubers and stuff, just kind of got indoctrinated into doing that. So I was carrying a Cat 7 tourniquet, which is combat applications tourniquet sold by North American Rescue. Kind of like the Glock of the tourniquet world. Just it's going to work every single time. It's the industry standard, and it's not too expensive. But it's not huge, but it's large. And so then this new company came around called Snake Staff Systems, that kind of wanted to make carrying a tourniquet on your body because it was becoming more common, a little bit more practical and easy. So they have two tourniquets. They have they call it the ETQ, everyday, or everyday carry tourniquet EQ2. Oh, I'm getting so mixed up right now. Something everyday carry tourniquet. They have the slim version and the wide version. So I'm carrying the wide version, and it's still a lot smaller and slimmer than the Cat 7. But with that said, you know, if you have any preparedness bones in you or whatever like that, and you are interested in being a more prepared person, citizen, civilian, get into medical first, because you are way more likely to get into a situation or scenario where you will need medical equipment, emergency medical equipment. It's a lot more common to get into that kind of scenario, whether that's work accident, car crash, anything like that, before you will ever have to draw a defensive weapon on anybody. You know, the odds are never zero, but statistically wise, you're a lot more prone to either witness a medical accident, emergency medical situation, or be in one yourself. And so that's kind of just why I've got into the habit of carrying a tourniquet on me, and it sits real nice on my left butt cheek, and
I
do it
agree
every day.
with your mentality.
Yeah.
100%.
And I also carry a larger IFAC kit in my everyday carry bag that I've got in a fanny sack, so I can throw it on very quickly, and that also has the larger Cat 7 tourniquet that I used to carry in my pocket.
Gotcha.
On that.
If you hear the word IFAC and you don't know what that means, it's an acronym.
Individual
First Aid Kit.
I think you forgot it for a second.
I almost did. We're going to do a demonstration, not right now,
Oh.
but in a future podcast.
Oh.
We're going to do some demonstrations with, because this looks like it's got what's the green?
It's a glow stick.
So if a person's in the dark,
Yep.
and you've rendered first aid to them and put a tourniquet on them, you'll be able to locate that person and
Right.
also easily identify where
Well, one of the
tourniquet
biggest
is.
components of keeping someone alive that is dying from an emergency medical situation is communication with higher powers of medical professionals, and so if in this, and it really stems a lot from combat situations, but even in mass casualty events, you could put a tourniquet on somebody, and just because of the confusion, the blood, the chaos, EMTs or doctors, they may not see that for a long time to know that, hey, somebody's got a large wound that can bleed out profusely should anything happen to that tourniquet. So that is just another form of communication with whoever is that person is being, or victim is being transported to, that, hey, there's a tourniquet right there. And so they make tourniquets in different colors. A lot. Most common is black, but they make bright orange, for that same purpose, to help communicate and show, hey, there's a tourniquet right here on this person.
Yeah.
That needs to be addressed.
That's right. Maybe we'll add medical sections to our podcast, but we'll move on.
Don't let that knowledge come from me. I just do what other people tell me to do in that area.
Yeah, but I do typically have I have an IFAC in my bag that I normally have on me, or sometimes it stays in my vehicle, but my vehicle is usually not too far away, and then also have an IFAC on my battle belt that stays in the back of my truck most of the time as well. So
we could do videos for it. We don't have to do a podcast. That'd be better.
No, but it's it could be a topic.
Oh, it could be a topic. Yeah. Violently agreeing.
Yes, like we often do.
That's what I meant to say earlier. Our violent agreement.
Okay, let's get into the Area Intelligence Handbook.
Oh, yeah. It's down here on the floor.
So, do you carry that with you every day?
No. But I do have a book called Left of Bang in my bag right now. That
I'm reading that as well.
That is very solid.
That'll be a future review.
That is, man, if you carry, if you're a defensive-minded person, prepared-minded person, Left of Bang is a great book to read to help you build that awareness and cognitive ability to be able to defend from an offensive point of view.
It's kind of one of those things you wish everybody would read it.
Yeah.
Just to have the knowledge of it and
right.
some wherewithal.
We're actually going to incorporate some of the knowledge from that book into our classes as well, because it is so good and so solid. But on to what we want to talk about. So let me just preface this by saying this is to help our ability to become more prepared for these crazy scenarios or situations that we like to talk about the world ending or the apocalypse happening or anything like that, our nation being invaded, any one of these scenarios, right? The common mentality within, I'll call it the prepper community, has been this idea of bugging out. Can you explain a little bit of what the common view of bugging out means or has meant?
Yeah.
So sorry, that was not proper English.
I think a lot of people have this fantasy idea in their mind that if the proverbial crap hits the fan in any given scenario, whether it's natural disaster, the government turns on us, a foreign military comes and invades the country, whatever the crazy situation would be, that we would bug out. And so in a sense, we would leave our homes or whatever area we're currently operating in, and we would head to the hills or the swamps, depending on where you live, and basically go survive in the back 40 for some extended period of time. And so people have what they refer to as bug out bags, or they've they got their vehicle fully prepped to bug out, or they've even got a camp somewhere that they've sort of got prepared to go bug out to. And so I think that's probably what we mean by that.
Yeah. What I want us to talk about is that through my research and into being more prepared and listening to other people who are more prepared minded than me and have a greater capacity and ability to that I'm trying to learn from, is that the idea of or this idea of bugging out in the sense of what it's meant in the past 10, 15, 20 years is actually probably the least of the probable things that we will need to do in order to actually survive as a community.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just throw this out there.
Do it.
Bugging out is like worst case, last thing
Right.
you would possibly ever do.
Right.
Your home is probably the most valuable thing that you have.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you have something more valuable than your home, then you make a lot more money than I do. But more than likely, your home is the most valuable thing that you have. You stop and think about shelter, right? I mean, that's what are the three things that you need right off the bat
Right.
every day? Water, food, shelter.
Right.
Right. And I would argue that you probably need to start working on shelter first, right?
Right.
Well, your home is your shelter.
Right.
Look, I'm at the age and point in life where if I go camping for a couple of days, I'm like, all right, I need to go home. My body needs it myself to go home.
And I think too, I do try to keep this this understanding. I think this idea of bugging out is a lot more plausible for people who live in or right next to bigger cities. Should any of these catastrophic events happen, so there is still some merit in having that ability. But I think in our situation, and in a lot of the perspectives of the people who are actually minded in this way, where we live is already essentially a place that somebody from a city would want to bug out to, if that makes sense.
That's where I live.
Yeah, that's where we
You
try
live
to
there.
right. We try to make that already our home.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let me throw this in there too, right? When you talk about bugging out, I think when a lot of people fantasize about this idea of bugging out, right? Generally, it's men,
yeah,
and it's some kind of like childhood fantasy thing
Yeah.
where we're going to go live in the woods for a while.
it's fun.
You have a wife
yeah,
and probably some kids. The last thing they're going to want to do is go live in the woods with you.
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
Right?
I've got a 2-month-old daughter. She turned 2 months yesterday.
Yeah.
I could not imagine keeping that small creature out in the woods for any extended period of time where she wouldn't either get diseases or she would just drive us crazy because she was so uncomfortable. You
Right.
know?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, you're going to subject not only yourself, but your wife and your kids to so much more harm
Yeah.
by sticking them out in the middle of nowhere for an undetermined period of time. That's far more
And I
dangerous.
think that is
You
a
know.
great segue point to get into where I think.
Yes, back to the book. We went on a tangent.
Well, no, I think that is a perfect lead up to what we need to talk about. And so the transition to that is, well, all right, say something catastrophic happens.
Can I just say this real quick?
Yes.
So instead of having a bug out mentality, I have a get home mentality. I want to get home and I want to get my wife and my kids home in the event that something bad happens in our area or whatever. I want to get home.
Right. So then, with that in mind, what is actually our goal, right? Right off the bat, it would be survival. So we'd obviously do what you have to do to survive. But beyond just survival itself, right? Over a 5, 10, 15-year period after said catastrophic event, what should our goal be? And my goal, at least, is to give my family back the quality of living that we had before said catastrophic event. And that overall gives you a greater survivability over the period of your life. And so that's where a lot of the knowledge from this book, the Area Intelligence Handbook by Mike Shelby, who's a former Army intelligence officer and now runs a company called the Forward Observer and I think Gray Zone Intelligence, where he does a lot of kind of intelligence work on the world that we live in and the evil people within it to keep good people informed. But he also does classes on how to gather intelligence, how to organize intelligence, and do different things depending on what you find. But he wrote this book, the Area Intelligence Handbook, to help the everyday person write or create what is called an area study. And I'm not really sure where the area study originates from, or who still does obviously the intelligence community. Probably it probably looks different for some different departments and organizations, but it's overall the same thing. But it's basically just an examination of the area. It's called your AO, your area of operations, where you live, and kind of a small circle radius around that. And then your area of interest, which is kind of like a little bit of more of an expanded version of that. It's just an examination of the people inside of that, the resources inside of that, the infrastructure inside of that, and all that entails to inform and make prepared you, the citizen, the person living inside of that AO, to be able to access or retrieve or connect with people, places, and things to increase your level of survivability, but also, I think, to help regain that quality of life that you and your community had before said catastrophic event came in and ruined that. So I just want to read a couple of things that'll give us.
Can we discuss real quick?
Yeah.
Sort of area of operation, just to give people an
Sure.
idea of what that
Yeah.
practically looks like. And so, I'm thinking, and not saying that I'm right about this, but
You're wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think, my immediate area of operation would be Washita Parish.
You can go parish the way that he writes it out in this book. It would actually be a little smaller than that.
Okay.
So I would probably go, the biggest that I would go based on the work in his book. There may be differing opinions. The biggest I would go with an AO in my area study, which, by the way, I'm trying to be a good steward of this knowledge and actually create one for myself, but it just takes time. I would probably go Monroe.
Okay, I thought that also.
But
But I was thinking resources as it pertains to resources.
right. So that's where we would say area of interest.
Okay.
So AI. And those two go hand in hand. You're just going to be a little bit more deliberate and specific and take a little bit more time with your AO than your AI.
Okay, so AO, area of operation, would
Right.
be what I'm physically going to interact with
Right.
on a daily
Where
basis. So
where
for
do
me,
you
that's
go
gonna
on a
be
daily
like
basis?
East, Monroe, kind of like sports area.
Right.
North Monroe.
Right.
I spend a considerable amount of time traveling between those two locations, and then Monroe itself. So, okay, I understand now. Area of operations, what I'm physically interacting with
Right.
on a daily basis. And then so area of interest is going to expand beyond outside of that. And now I'm thinking like resources of like water,
Right.
food,
Right.
people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, one of the things that you do in your area study is you examine critical infrastructure as well as the people who run that, as well as the people who run local government. So I'll just give us a couple quotes and get our minds jogging. We can take it from there. This is from Chapter 8. Says, critical infrastructure is everything that keeps your world spinning. I don't mean to sound preachy, but part of my gripe against the bug-out bag industrial complex is that so much time is focused on gear, food, and water storage that they miss out on identifying alternative sources of everything in their area and building relationships with the people who run them. And then later on...
So you just stop.
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit of discussion there. If you just think about water, right? I've got a pond on my property.
Yeah.
But I don't want to just go drink that water, right?
Nope.
There's going to be a process to purifying that water, whether it's boiling it or running it through a system. But that's going to require work on a daily basis for me, right? And so my long-term goal, which probably isn't actually all that long, would be more likely to like, hey, what do we need to do to get the water system
Right.
that feeds my house
Right.
tap water every day
Right.
up and running?
Right. Yeah, and I'll get into that right here. later he says, the Department of Homeland Security has 16 critical infrastructure sectors, and I'll list them here alphabetically for your situational awareness. Chemical, commercial facilities, communications, critical manufacturing, dams, defense, industrial base, emergency services, energy, financial services, food and agriculture, government facilities, healthcare and public health, information technology, nuclear reactors, materials and waste, transportation systems, water and wastewater systems. Says, I bring these up because this is a darn good list of facility categories. I'm trying to talk too fast. You need to identify in your area study. It's also a list of sectors for which you might want redundancy. And by redundancy, I mean everything from having something in your backyard to knowing where the materials are kept to fix or build a replacement and the people who can build and run it should the need arise. So that kind of sums up that section of the critical infrastructure bit, and then I'll say one more from chapter 9, which is politics and governance, and then we'll kind of get into my main takeaway from these things, just one takeaway, I guess, really. He says again, one of my biggest gripes with the bug-out bag industrial complex is the thought that the United States is destined for a free-for-all Mad Max scenario, unbounded by politics and government. Sure, a worst-case scenario could happen, but it's not the most likely scenario. By ignoring political power and issues of governance, folks who push the Mad Max scenarios are not only overlooking, but failing to prepare to deal with the political aspects of living in an emergency. In an ideal scenario, your tribe controls these political levers. In America, citizens are ingrained to look to elected officials and leaders for guidance and assistance. Most areas are still going to have some form of political establishment, albeit with a reduced capacity to govern. Even if you think the United States is going to collapse and is going to zero, some form of politics, even informal instead of formal, is going to replace the existing system. By failing to account for the political terrain, you are missing out on some major power centers that you should be identifying. People are political creatures. Remember that an area study is a blueprint for action. As you work your way through this chapter while building your area study, you may find useful information about your local government. This could be information of intelligence value, such as upcoming legislation or rulemaking, or incendiary statements or beliefs of politicians that the public would like to know about. Your perpetual goal should be building political, social, and economic power. Knowing the players, what they believe, and where they are politically strong and politically vulnerable are all potentially exploitable pieces of information. Use this to build your own political power.
Yeah, so I think just to sort of summarize, in a sense, no people group has ever succeeded, at least not at a high level, without good governance.
Yeah.
And so our goal, again, going back to some ridiculous fantasy, I think everybody has this idea that government's just going to collapse and it's going to disappear and it's going to be every man for himself. For one, it's not realistic. Two, we just need government.
Right.
And it's probably hard for a lot of us to think this way, given our current political climate. But thank God for government.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, our lives function at the level that they do and the way that they do and our level of comfort because of government, right? And so our goal would need to be to reestablish and assist government in whatever ways possible to resume our quality of life.
Right. Well, I think I like what he said in the book there. You know, there's formal and informal politics. We're political creatures, and in reality, every time that you talk with someone that is not like just 100% your friend or your buddy, you're probably having a political, even if it's socially political, a political interaction with that person in the sense that you're trying to know who they are, they're trying to know who you are, you're trading ideas, you're seeing where they stand on certain things or where you stand on certain things. You maybe have differing opinions like that. Like our interaction with other people, that is politics, in kind of the definitive explanation of it. And so when we start to think about not just ourself in these catastrophic events, but our community in these catastrophic events, we're going to have to interact with people, whether that, like he said, is formal political action or informal political action. It's going to be a political action,
Right.
because you're going to be interacting with people that you don't know. And so I think his goal there is to say you should get to know those people before that event could happen, because the more people you know now, the more, like he said, political power you're going to have in whatever the case may be. And that brings me to the main point of what I wanted to talk about today is that I think the greatest thing you can do to be prepared is to build your network.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is by starting out by being an asset to your own community, making yourself an asset to your community so that other people see your value in a political perspective, in an economic perspective in your community, but also that you are a good person, right? And that you have not just your interests in mind, and that you want to bring goodness and good things to other people as well, to your community. And that's kind of what I mean by being an asset, right? You're providing something of value that is worth something to other people. But building your network in that way is probably the greatest thing that you can do to be prepared.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, let me throw this out there just for an example.
Go ahead.
I live on a one-way in, one-way out road. And recently we had a storm, and the storm brought down a tree that went across my one-way in, one-way out road, and also took down a power line in the process. And so, good?
Yeah, I was just checking.
Okay. My wife and daughters were away from the home, and I was at home. And so when the storm came through and the tree fell down, I was stuck at home, and they were stuck outside of home. How long was it? 3 days? 2 days?
It was 2 days.
2 full days, maybe into the third day. And, so I mean, it was a small storm. Wasn't
I mean, it didn't last
horrible.
a whole day. It lasted
took, yeah,
an hour or
and,
two.
yeah. But, that's a likely scenario.
Yeah.
Right. I did realize that I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was.
Should have been.
My primary flashlight was almost dead, so I should have had it charged up. I did have my headlamp charged up, so that was good. Had water on hand. We did not have a lot of food in the house.
Shame.
And I kind of put myself in a hangry situation.
You were very angry.
because I skipped lunch that day. I won't say why, but I skipped lunch that day, and I was really looking forward to a good meal for dinner. And then my wife was going to stop and bring some dinner home, and I was excited about that, getting to eat that food. And then the storm came through and took down the tree, and I didn't get that meal. And man, I wasn't happy. And I think I don't remember what I ended up eating, but
Or a sandwich or something.
yeah, I did. I ate 2 sandwiches that night, and then ran out of sandwich food as well. And I remember at one point I snacked on some crackers, like saltine crackers. But anyway, I got through. I survived. But those are far more likely scenarios that we need to be ready for.
And,
And you brought me a burrito.
I did bring you a Taco
I was
Bandito
very
burrito
thankful for that.
at one point.
That's the best thing I ate.
But imagine if that had gone any longer. Would you be able to turn to your neighbors and say, "Hey,
Well,
I'm out of food"?
so what I wanted to eventually get to is it took a while. It felt like forever for energy to come out, and they eventually put the grounding cables on the wires. And so my neighbors, and thank God I have these kind of neighbors, right? But this is where it gets into networking. One neighbor came down with a chainsaw, another neighbor came down with his tractor, and they cut up and moved the tree. And so I was very thankful for that. And I would have been more than willing to help cut up the tree myself, but my chainsaw's not big enough to handle a tree that size. And so I'm some things I'm looking at expanding. One is just having more food on hand, like survival type food. Just to, not that you got to go crazy with it and have more than you need, but maybe a bucket for a few days. And then maybe expanding my, like having a bigger chainsaw on hand, maybe a gas powered
Size matters.
chainsaw does. And then, networking even just in your own neighborhood or down your own road, knowing who your neighbors are.
Right.
Because honestly, I didn't know who they were until this happened.
And
but now I
normally
know
it
who they
takes
are.
something like that, to kind of, I don't know. But it's never hurts to get out before that if you
Right,
can,
right.
know. But do imagine if say that event would have gone any longer than it had. I mean, y'all were just completely cut off down there. And,
Yeah.
And I was worrying about some of the elder people that I know that live down there and whether they had food and water or not.
Yeah, I was fine. I mean, for me, it's kind of an adventure.
But would you be able to turn to your neighbors and say, "Hey, I'm out of food,"
Right.
and they know you well enough, trust you well enough, or can kind of see you as a competent asset enough that you will be able to provide something if they need something as well, for them to be able to give you some food to eat
Right.
because you need that to survive.
Yeah.
But can expand and extend that kind of scenario in a large capacity very quickly, especially with something like storms and natural disasters. Whenever that hurricane hit down south a couple of years ago, I mean, we got past Lafayette, and there was no more cell phone lines.
Yeah.
There was no more power anywhere. There was hardly any gas anywhere.
Right.
And so there was just people that were completely cut off. They could get in their car and drive somewhere, maybe, if there wasn't a power line or a tree down, which there was a lot of that as well. But they would have had no way to communicate with anybody if they needed anything or if they were injured and hurt. You can't call 911. So that's another consideration about being able to have your own capabilities in that capacity.
So, point being, where's the book?
Right.
Know your area.
Know your area.
Know your area, right? And I need to get this book and read it myself, or
It's
I'll
solid.
get it from you when you're.
It's a good book. I've read it all the way through, and now I'm going to try and go back and actually do the area study as I'm reading through it. I just kind of wanted to
And we'll do that together.
see. Yeah, we could, and that he mentions that in this book. If you have people around you that are also like-minded, that live in the same AO, then make one together because you're going to be able to pull in a lot more information and intelligence than you would just be able to on your own.
Yeah. And one last thing that I'll mention, and we don't have to do a deep dive into this, but when as it pertains to our society and the possibility for, obviously, natural disasters are always a possibility, and we've seen some pretty bad ones, and we have not as bad ones on a more local level at times, like the storm that came through a couple weeks ago. But as it pertains to, a larger level catastrophe, if you will, what I see as a much more likely possibility is just kind of a slow fade, sort of the degradation of society, if you will. For example, you can go drive around in certain parts of a lot of towns today, and you can find parts that look like third world country.
Oh yeah,
right. And so there's no question that while certain parts of cities and towns may be continuing to prosper and get better, obviously there's also parts of cities and towns that are getting worse. And then when I look at our government, and thankfully not, I think we're pretty squared away down here in the South and in Louisiana, we're doing pretty good, but when I look at certain, political people or political officials in other parts of the country, man, I see a real lack of competence. And I think it's that lack of competence that leads to the degradation of our society. And so if we continue to elect incompetent people, it's only going to lead to the further degradation of our society. And I think America moving in the direction of not being a first world country. Now, I know that's probably a stretch and it would take a long time for that to happen, but I think that's probably an even more likely scenario than just some massive catastrophe that wipes out everything in a short period of time.
And you know, to your point, what I see or what I can examine, you kind of talked about the elected officials in some of these positions. The elected officials that I see in positions of power over the places that look like these third world countries, that we've both been able to see and visualize and get a feel for, are those are elected officials for somehow, but they also have the same self-interest as these dictators and tyrannical leaders of these third world countries.
Yeah, they're really only looking out for themselves.
Even if they don't project that, it's not hard to see that they have their own self-interest in mind, and they believe that that position of government is a position of power over those people, even though constitutionally the people have the power over the government.
Well, it's pretty obvious to see in how much money they end up with in their
Yeah.
own back pocket,
Right.
versus what they put into their communities.
Meanwhile,
so
their communities look like Haiti,
yeah,
which is sad because, man, that
it is sad.
it's when you just it really triggers something within me when I know I can't say trigger, that's a woke word, but whenever I see like just piles and piles of trash everywhere, I mean that's like the epitome of what makes Haiti so disgusting, is that there's no sanitation system, there's no trash system, it's just everywhere, and that's part of the degradation of that society. And when I see that here, it links that together with that trip and that experience and my perspective of why that culture is so evil and so vile, and I can directly see that, like you said, in a slow fade kind of way happening to some places in America, and it is really sad. And I think that if we don't step up now to try and counter that, to try and speak out against that, to give our perspective from those trips, then other people who are more blind to that won't see that and won't do anything to change it, and we will end up like that one day.
Yeah. So I guess maybe point being, vote with your intellect,
There's a lot
not
of points
just your
in there.
emotions. But anyway,
I think we're changing points like every
Yeah,
5
okay.
seconds, but I mean that's okay.
all right,
It's our podcast. We can say whatever the heck we want.
it's true. Let's see. Tim had a couple of books. We good to move on from that,
Yeah.
and we'll probably revisit that
Oh, I'm sure.
periodically as well. We've pushed this book already, and I'm reading this book currently, and I will just say that it's an excellent read. Really enjoying the story, and it's an incredible story. But that is the book Wesselhoft, Traded to the Enemy, written by Shirley Anderson Wesselhoft, who is the wife of the subject matter in the book, who is Adolf Wesselhoft. Basically, American-German child whose family was put in an internment camp during World War II and eventually sent to Germany. He ended up coming back to America and joined the United States Air Force and served in the United States Air Force. Really good story, really good read. I highly recommend it. You can pick that up here at Victory Military Surplus. I'm struggling. The sinus infection does not help anything.
He doesn't always sound weird like that.
Yeah. And then also another book, I've not read this one yet, but I plan on it, telling his story, POW number 1000. The story of the Bataan Death March, Japanese POW camps. I believe the prisoner was J.C. Pardue, and his daughter, if I'm not mistaken, Janice Pardue Hill, wrote the book. So another good one to check out, and you can also pick that up here at Victory Military Surplus. Last topic for the day. Kids,
man.
you good?
Yeah.
Kids who spend time in nature are healthier
Mm-hmm.
Than kids who don't spend time in nature. So I want to read a few things, make a few
Okay.
points, and then we can kind of have some discussion about it. We're not going to do a deep dive here, but I just want to encourage you to get your kids outside. The myriad benefits that humans accrue from time spent in natural outdoor spaces are well documented and include improved physical health, mental health, which is a big issue. Well, physical health is as well, and well-being, and creativity. There's also growing evidence documenting the numerous benefits to child development from spending time outdoors, including physical and mental health impacts. But in addition to these, are indicative benefits to children's cognitive, academic attainment, and physical activity levels, outcomes which are also documented across systematic reviews of the literature. So a few points. So that, let me say this, that was from, oh my goodness, PMC PubMed Central, National Library of Medicine. So you can find that there and read more about it. And then childmind.org, Child Mind Institute, just a few bullet points here. Spending time in nature builds confidence. It promotes creativity and imagination. It teaches responsibility. It provides different stimulation than just sitting inside all day. It gets kids moving. It makes them think. And it reduces stress and fatigue. Not to brag or anything, but I was very intentional about getting you
Yes, you were.
outdoors whenever you were growing up, going camping and just doing other things.
We're not going to tell you our
We mountain
spot.
bike, we've kayaked.
Just kidding. We might tell you our spot. I don't
You know, we go outside, shoot guns, and
Yeah.
stuff. And so,
do fun stuff.
you know, I grew up in the '80s when you just played outside.
Right.
You know, it was kind of like the rule at my house, at least on a Saturday, was if the sun's up, you're outside, and if you're inside, then you're going to clean. And no kid wants to help clean, so we grew up outside. You know, with the advances of technology, I think that's motivated kids in a sense, or influenced kids to spend more time inside.
Yeah, I mean, I even was that progressed throughout my childhood, and I, under my own guise, spent more time indoors through the latter years of my childhood just because of that same progression through technology and video games and stuff like that. Luckily, you still made an effort to counterbalance that, I guess, with lots of time outdoors doing mainly, mechanical work and stuff like that. But just getting me out of the house in that sense. But I mean, that was a progression because I remember I used to be an outside kid, like I'd go ride my bike with my friends, very almost 80s like,
right? In our neighborhood.
in our neighborhood. But just like I can look back on it now, the timeline, it's like as the technology got better, as I got older, I guess, more into video games and in some degree, I spent a lot more time inside than I did outside. And it, still turned out okay. But again, because you made an effort, not because of my own choosing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think spending time outdoors kind of did for you in your development? Like, can you put any practical?
Okay, yeah, it might take me a second, and I also want to, while we're doing this, I want to connect this to our main theme of what we're doing at Lions and Lambs, which is to try and look at the life of Jesus and emulate that as much as possible. So I'll kind of connect it to what I see in his life through his life here on earth as best as I can after I make these points. But some of the things that I think that it did for me, the right off the top of my head was that it gave me a bigger picture of the world we live in, I think, and the definitely the beauty of the world that we live in, and creation in general. But it also, I think, to a degree, humbled me in the sense that I was able to view just how small I am as an individual human person, and to see that there is a lot more world out there and lots more people in the world, lots of more things to be done. lots of opportunities. I think it broadened my my view of what I could do with my life, in the sense of just showing me more of the world, more of nature, uh, more of what's in it, and I think with that comes a higher level of danger in lots of areas, lots of places, taking risks that very well could have injured or some maybe even resulted in death in some instances. He's going to die over here for a minute, so we're going to let him go do that.
Yeah, leaving jiu-jitsu. I'll be home in about 20 minutes. Okay. Love you. Bye.
How far does it go? 30 miles? Is it?
Infrared was almost like, it's like vision, a little
Okay.
magnification too.
Gotcha.
Nice to go out there forward.
We'll just move on. With that said, obviously I'll cry a little bit.
And notice.
Okay, sorry. I have a sinus infection. And
We're
it
back
attacks
we're
the
back
back of my throat
from him
sometimes.
dying.
Not much I can do about it. Okay. Where were we?
All right, I was talking about how I was able to take more risks, physical risks outdoors, in scenarios that put me against nature, that put me against me, that allowed me to be able to find the balance between risk and reward, I think, and then seeing the reward at the end of some risks, at the end of some hard challenges, some hard tasks, that allowed me to gain that perspective and kind of that knowing that that has a value of taking risk in order to gain some reward. Also, maybe making decisions not to. And either feeling the consequence of that and feeling like you missed out on something, or maybe that you feel better about it and that you just weren't totally prepared or felt competent enough to do whatever that said task was. So in that degree, I think it just kind of expanded my ability to take risk.
Or to assess risk.
To assess risk, for sure. What else?
But also to learn how to be prepared.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to take this risk, maybe there's some things I can do on the front end
Right.
to mitigate it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I'm still going to take the risk, but
Right.
at a calculated
Right.
level. Right.
Uh-huh.
To kind of bring things full circle here, back to the beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord. Right. I know one of the big things that nature does for me, and sometimes I will even just go for a walk in the woods in my backyard.
Hallelujah.
I got 5 acres of woods, and so I'll just go, and like just the idea of encountering a snake, a cottonmouth, like something dangerous.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be careful because I don't want
Right.
to get bit by one of those jokers. But the idea of it and it's almost like it awakens something inside of me that isn't awoke.
Whoa.
What's the right way to
Awake?
say that? That isn't awake. Golly, brain part. When I'm inside and in a safe environment, right, where I'm protected,
Right.
It awakens something inside of me that needs
Yeah.
to be
Oh, it definitely taught
alive,
me
right?
to be more aware
Yeah.
of my surroundings, in that degree, and it still does whenever I go take a walk in your woods because there's lots of snakes back there.
Yeah.
Um,
Cottonmouth, particularly.
nasty things.
Yeah. I think, I always, especially when we go, up to the mountains to go camping or off-roading or whatever it may be, to look up at the stars at night on a clear night, when you're away from the city, away from any lights, like you said it a while ago, like, man, I'm really small
Yeah.
in this universe. And God is really, really, this universe is really, really big, but
Yep.
God
He
just
created
spoke
it.
it all into existence. And so
Holy crap.
he's, immeasurable.
Yeah.
And it reminds me who he is.
Yep.
And who I am. And, I think that's really healthy for the human psyche.
Absolutely. And it does, like every time I have an opportunity like that to witness and see God's creation in that way. I was going to kind of get to this, but from a spiritual perspective, right? It just reminds me how big and powerful God is. And that, again, like we talked about way earlier about putting ourselves into the proper position in our relationship with God, that helps to remind me, oh yeah, I'm small, God's big.
Yeah.
That's the proper relationship for me to acknowledge and know and have that respect for God in that way and to fear God in that way. Like, he could make this, he could destroy this all if he wanted to. Certainly he can destroy me if he wants to.
You remember we were, I think we were off-road. We were camping or off-road. And it was just you and me. And that storm came.
Oh, that was bad. That was
Like,
rough.
I just remember thinking, like, there's got to be a tornado in this storm.
I mean, it was like we were driving through a small town, but it had no one in it.
I don't think it was a town. It was just like a country road in the mountains of Arkansas.
Well, no, that's where we got to. We were, when it first hit, like when it got really bad, we
Yeah.
were still kind of on a main road with some
Yeah,
buildings around
right.
us. But it was like, it got so bad that we're sitting in the truck in the middle of the storm. We know that we've pulled off to the side of the road, but I was like, we could be up in the air in a tornado right now, and like if I couldn't feel anything,
Yeah.
that's what I would think we were doing
Right.
because it was so disorienting.
It was bad.
You couldn't see
Trees
anything.
were coming down. I mean, it was
rough.
it got bad real quick. And but I remember thinking in that moment, like, man, we're in the Lord's hand.
Mhm.
Like, we're just in the God's hands, and that's all there is to it, you know.
Yep.
But I
Oh,
think
when
that's
you're-
healthy. And I was going to say that about getting out in nature is that I think, when we just stay in safe environments all the time, we don't really contemplate
Yeah.
death.
Nope.
And I think it's actually healthy to contemplate
Oh yes,
death, right?
absolutely.
And to find yourself in situations every so often where you're like, man, I could die.
Yeah.
And I need to be good with the Lord, you know?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we've ever had one of those trips where we were in a situation where it's like, oh man, I could die right now. Like legitimately, like I'm about to. I mean, certainly there's hanging off the side of a cliff, rappelling. Like, oh yeah, if the rope snaps, I could die right now.
Right.
But
I think that every time I go rappelling.
still felt, still feel relatively comfortable
Sure.
in that I
You trust your
have
equipment.
trust in my in the
Yeah.
equipment.
Well, there's a lesson in
stuff.
that too.
And I'm saying like, I've never had a rope snap on me and think, oh no, I'm going to die. But
Yeah.
but you still kind of gain a little bit of that perspective.
But you think about the possibility.
right? You
of
do,
it.
and it makes you think about your life.
Or even just every time I go
More.
rappelling, I'm thinking, well, the rope's not going to snap, but what if I wig out
Pass out
and
and
drop the
just let it
rope or
go.
something, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that could happen. I'm really trying to think. I don't think I've ever. Maybe like, for doing a little cliff jumping into the Buffalo River, like when
Mhm.
you first jump off, like, oh, this might kill me.
Well, just the just the feeling of falling
yeah,
in and of itself, you know?
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I remember we went to Dallas and we bungee jumped.
Yeah,
But then there
you
was
did
the-
the free fall.
The
I
free
didn't
fall,
bungee- I
the
didn't
free
do
fall
that.
thing. So they just take you up and you're kind of strapped in, but then they just cut you loose and you just fall down in the middle
200
of this
feet or
tower.
something.
Huh?
200 feet. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy
it
to
was-
watch.
It was. So I challenged myself when I did this that I was like I was gonna scream the whole way down,
He did.
and I couldn't do it. Physically couldn't do it. I physically couldn't get sound out of my mouth until right about the moment I hit the net. I finally got a little bit of sound out, but it was paralyzing. Like just the falling that fast for that period of
With
of
nothing.
distance.
300
Yeah,
feet in
just-
the air.
I
and
mean,
you're
you're
just
attached to nothing. You're just falling.
Yeah.
And you're also you're facing the sky.
Yeah.
You're falling backwards, and so it was paralyzing. I was just kind of stuck and froze for a few seconds, or however long it took to fall. But things like that, you need
They
to have
grow
those
your
kind of
perspective.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to be that crazy, like
Right.
there's still you just need to get out in nature and experience something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
I try to say that as profoundly as possible.
It's so profound, dude. My mind is blown. No, but I think, there's obviously an epidemic of anxiety and depression within younger generations, and the younger we
Yeah.
go, the more that seems to be prevalent as just a commonplace thing.
Right.
Whether it's like actual genuine or just somebody identifying as that because it gives them attention. I still think it holds merit that is one of the things that people like to identify with that gives them attention, in the sense that it's just so commonplace that it's like not even questionable,
Yeah.
And I think that that's a problem.
Hey, I think another thing too, with getting out in nature is, like you might find yourself in some difficult circumstances.
Oh, I was just about to say that problem solving.
Yeah.
I as an individual, and I'm not trying to be prideful or anything, but to a certain extent, like my ability to stay calm under pressure and to solve problems quickly, is very much attributed to our time outdoors.
Yeah.
With higher consequences,
Right.
and some off-roading sometimes in the middle of smack dab nowhere, a problem starts arising. You start thinking real hard about how to fix it because you want to not have to walk out of there.
Yeah, I remember that reminded me of the trip. I think the last off-road trip we did, it was just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And we had gone up that trail that kind of brought us to this rock that we were trying to get up and over. And we were in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I don't even know where
It was hours.
I
in the
couldn't
middle of
find where we
nowhere.
were on a map for the life of me now. But and I was trying to get the FJ up and over this rock. And I think you had gotten out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean,
at one
look,
point.
this is like we're going up a hill that's already like this steep,
Yeah.
and then the rock face is like this steep, and this dude's like, "We're gonna go up it."
We're going to go up it. We're
and
going to get
with
up it.
my FJ and 32-inch
And we
tires,
did not go up it.
we did not.
After
And then
a couple of failed attempts.
we ended up walking up the path anyways, and it turned out it was a dead end.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gone anywhere. There was a
Idiot.
fence that we couldn't have gotten through. So, but I think we got a little concerned about flipping the
That might have
FJ.
been the closest there. It's like, we might die doing this, you know? We could. No, so we ended up having to, because the hill was so steep to a degree that if you had just tried to turn around like normal, you would have flipped.
Yeah, I couldn't just
Turn around,
start
like
reversing
you
would
and
normally do a 3-point turnaround or whatever.
So we ended up back in the FJ, because it's
Up
got a
against a
spare
tree.
tire on the back, up against the tree, so that we could then basically just like inch
yeah,
sideways until we had enough to turn off of the hill and not flip. But
it was a great experience. And we did
it
some
was good
solving.
problem solving.
It's good learning experience there. But things like that, get out in nature. I was going to say, I think back in the winter we had a little bit of a snow ice storm come through, and I took my wife and youngest daughter out into the woods, and we kind of got stuck in a bit of a thicket. And they were not happy about it, but I thought, this is a good experience. When we get on the other side of this experience, you're gonna be thankful that you had it in the past and that you went through it. And so I think that's, facing adversity.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get out in the wilderness and face adversity, and anyhow,
And the wilderness doesn't care,
it doesn't.
because it doesn't have
does not care.
an off switch like people who
Yeah.
tried to emulate that do. It's you and nature, and you got
Nature wins every time.
nature will win if you let it.
Yeah. All right.
What else did we have to that degree? Oh, connecting this back to the life of Jesus.
Oh, yeah. He would retreat
Yep. I was just,
either up a mountain or
Yep.
into the wilderness, right, to go
To-
get alone with God.
Yeah. You sounded like you had a bigger
I
point
just wanted
there.
to make those points.
That was just my same points.
Or that point.
If you look through Scripture, just about every time Jesus goes to seriously pray, he's like, "All right, y'all stay here. I'm going to the wilderness. I'll be back in hours or days."
Yeah.
And he would just go and spend alone time with God and His creation. And I think that is something that grounds us and roots us into our connection with our Creator, is being surrounded by more of His creation.
Absolutely.
We can also get into this. If you look at big civilizations within Scripture, each and every single one of them becomes overcome with sin and immorality. And I think we can directly translate that to our day, where we look at big cities and see that sin is much more prevalent and immorality is much more prevalent. And I think it's just because we're replacing God's creation with man's creation.
Yeah.
And losing that connection with God, losing the sense that God is way bigger than we can ever imagine.
Yeah. Well, I think we replace the literal jungle with the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And we lose perspective on the reality of life. I was also going to say, I think just looking throughout the entirety of Scripture, where do we see people most usually encounter God?
The wilderness.
Yeah, not indoors, but outdoors, right? I mean, Moses in the burning bush.
Yep.
Paul on the road to Damascus.
Yep.
Gideon in the threshing thing, whatever it was called. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, whatever it was.
I don't know.
I mean, I think, there's a few exceptions maybe. John, what was John the Baptist's dad's name? Zechariah?
Yes.
I mean, he encountered God in the temple.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, most encounters with God took place outside, out in the wilderness,
Right.
in some shape, form, or fashion. And
I
so-
mean, when Jesus went to kind of begin his ministry, he went out to the wilderness for 40 days,
yeah, the 40-day, 40-night fast in
No.
the wilderness.
faced temptation. And I kind of think like that's a part of building who Jesus was facing, because you also, while at the same time you get a sense of God's creation and how big He is, you also can visually see that it is fallen, that there is death,
Yeah.
that there are predators out there that want to hurt you and take either your life or your things in a very real sense. And sin kind of acts the same way. And I think being able to face physical adversity helps you face spiritual adversity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so it just makes a more healthy, rounded, and God-fearing individual to spend time outdoors in God's creation, to be in His hands, to feel His presence, to see His creation, to see how it has fallen, gone astray, but also to see that He still cares, that He still loves us, that He's still here for us, and that He chose us. You know?
Yeah.
Out of all that He created, He chose us to be His chosen people that will get to spend eternity with Him, should we choose.
You preaching now, buddy.
Well, I'm sorry. Thought this was a Christian
It's good.
Minecraft server.
It's good. All right.
You
Good
got
stuff.
anything else to talk about?
Nope. I think we need to stitch this puppy up.
Why did you say that?
I
That
don't know.
sounded
It
weird.
sounded good in my head.
Love God, love people,
Stay alert, stay alive.
be a lion and a lamb. What other?
Be dangerous, but
Be loving,
loving.
be capable of danger.
One of these days, we're going to come up with something that's going to be our tagline. For Lions and
Tagline?
Lambs. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll make one day.
We'll
If
make one.
you think you have a
Should be
good
fun.
tagline idea, put it in the comments below, because that helps YouTube push our videos. Also, like it, because that helps also YouTube push our videos.
Share it.
And share it, and also subscribe so that you can see more, because we love you and we just want to help you become a better husband, father, Christian person, in the sense that we are here to do the same thing for each other. And from talking with other people, we're here to learn, we're here to be humbled, we're here to talk about God. Oh, I said that. I mean, obviously that's what we're doing, but
Yeah.
I probably need to shut up now.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
Bye.
Peace, homies.